Hi, all. I'm Matt Thielen. I'm the Dean of Student Life, and for today's session, we're going to talk about your student coming to campus with us in COVID as part of our discussion today. So hopefully all of you can hear me okay as we go through this. And what I put on the screen for you is what we shared to the campus community, and I'll talk a little bit about the START team, which is the student arrival and return team, and what that group is about. But I thought today we could cover some of those topics through our different areas of focus throughout the campus, and there were multiple ones. So cleaning, residence life, student activities, athletics, things like that. So as we go through this, kind of follow with the document. I'll be talking, I may not talk on every single topic that's on there, but I'd like to cover those, especially I think from a parent perspective. So the START group, we started meeting as a group way back at the beginning of June, and that group kind of formed, we had an EMT group on campus, a lot of acronyms right now, but our EMT is our emergency management team. And so we wanted to put a group together that really is a cross-section of the campus and work together using the Nebraska State College System guidelines for bringing students back to campus. And so we have faculty, staff as a part of that, administrators. It's a group of about 15 or 16 that have been meeting since the beginning of June, implementing those guidelines for bringing students back to campus. The vision of this START team or the group is to provide a personalized and engaging educational experience. I think that's important, but also we wanted to maintain, that guidance and safety, and using that research-based guidance and safety for the campus community as students come back to campus this fall. So that's a little overview of the START group. And so I'm going to get into what I think are some areas of focus to talk about. The first one being face coverings and social distance. So two things that are going to be important as students come back to campus. There's many, but two things that kind of jump out to me is space and distance. And so we're requiring individuals to maintain a good social distance of 6 feet. And that's what the CDC says, and that's what we are communicating to students in the campus community. All individuals will be required to wear face coverings in all buildings, and when unable to stay 6 foot apart, face coverings are not required, obviously, when we're eating or alone in our office space or in our dorm room, but all faculty and staff and students will receive a mask. So many of us on campus, facility services has given us those masks. We got 2 each, but as students arrive for the move-in, we'll have those available right as they move in for that move-in day for on campus. And then for our commuter students, we will communicate to them there's 2 spots on campus. The facilities office will have their masks for them as they arrive that first day. Another spot will have those masks in the student center over by my office. I'll touch briefly. So with the START group, we have been communicating since the start of June to the campus community, and then also to our website and students about what's going on here at the college. We've had numerous Zoom meetings. We just had one about an hour ago where we're meeting with faculty and staff to go over our plan, guidance as we start the fall semester. So communication is important. One thing I'll mention with communication, starting this week, the Student Life and CAT's team has been phone calling every student that will be an on-campus student for this fall to follow up with them in regards to what they're doing before they arrive. So there's some questions on there about self-screening. There's questions on there about if they're not feeling well before they return, and then a contact number. So we started those phone calls. It's about 1,000 phone calls on Monday, and we're hoping to complete those Thursday to reach out to every student that will be on campus with us in the fall to follow up with them, not only about our plan, but some things that they can do before they arrive back with us. The next thing on the list is buildings. So what will be new for all students, especially those first year students, is in each building we have directional flow areas and social distancing floor decals placed in all buildings. So the flow arrows are very important. Remember when I talked about two important things will be numbers and spacing. Well, those will help with our flow. So not only as we kind of walk through buildings, but also our entries and exits might look a little bit different than normal. We want to keep those designed that here's an entry into the building. The exit may look different than that, and so follow those protocols. So that's going to be something important, that we can keep a good flow in the buildings. And as we go into buildings, go into classrooms, we want to make sure that we're ensuring that we're wearing our face coverings. And then also facility services has plexiglass at certain barriers for office space, especially those that we feel are high traffic. We have those set up, and I think there's a few more that we're doing for some office spaces as well. With the START group, with our academic space plan, a couple things in here that I think are important for students and parents. We're really encouraging students to refrain from entering classrooms early or congregating in the hallway before and after class. I think it's just a good practice. When I was in college, this would have been great for me because I was always about 15 minutes late to class. So we're encouraging students to come at their assigned time for class, so we don't have a lot of groups forming kind of outside the classroom, so we can kind of work with that. As students are in class, they will sit in the same seat each class session, depending on what that class is, and attendance will be taken. Both the seating chart and attendance record may be utilized for contact tracing if warranted. If we do have a positive case on campus, we want to make sure we can do a good job working with the Southeast Nebraska Health Department and knowing if that positive case and who they were around. So you'll see that a little bit throughout this document. And in the classrooms, attendance, assigned seats are very important. Faculty and students entering a classroom will sanitize their area and equipment. Supplies will be provided. We will go over that with students during Welcome Week, but also their faculty will as well. So as they enter the classroom, being able to take wipes, wipe down their chair, they may want to use it to wipe down if they bring a PC or any other technology equipment as well. So we're asking students and faculty to do that as they enter the classroom. Social distancing will be required at all times to meet with students and other faculty and staff. If space is not available, faculty and staff should hold virtual meetings. So if we get into a situation, and we have some offices here that 6 feet to be able to meet with someone else can get a little tight, I think what we're looking at is to be able to provide multiple ways to make sure we're meeting students when faculty have office hours, or if we're a staff person, being able to meet with them. Maybe that's through Zoom or some other means of technology to support that if we don't feel that we can get within a comfortable 6-foot radius when meeting with people. Then I'll touch on a couple points from the cleaning plan for campus. All cleaning that we'll be doing on campus is conducted by the CDC guidelines that we review daily and weekly to make sure we're in compliance with that. Cleaning supplies will be provided by facility services, either in the forms of wipe or spray. So that would go into what we're going to be doing in the classroom. That also, if you have your student in the residence halls, if they wanted some materials to clean their room, they would just need to get in touch with the RA. With that, we'd have that available for them. Facility services has also with their staff being able to wipe down touch points in common areas of buildings 3 times a day. What's also important is we call them high traffic areas. So things such as in the residence halls on campus with restrooms, those are high frequent areas. So multiple times a day cleaning those, and then additional high areas on campus, probably student center, athletics, classrooms when we're done for the end of the day. So that's a little bit on the cleaning schedule. And like I said at the beginning, we're following all those CDC guidelines to ensure, that we're doing the right things as we help support the students and faculty that are here. Then I'll mention a little bit, because it's a little bit of a change of what we've done before, hosting meetings, events on campus. We've always had a process, but now what we're looking at, that process goes back again to what I mentioned earlier, space and numbers. And so we're requiring all reservations to be evaluated, and we have someone that does that as reservations are sent in, to accommodate groups in certain rooms to maintain that 6-foot social distancing. All spaces have been adjusted to host 6-foot distancing between attendees. So that's very important. And then if it doesn't meet those requirements from the room scheduling, they will receive an email back. So that could be an organization that wants to have a meeting on campus. It may be bringing in a speaker or a club that's meeting. They have to go through a process, and then that is reviewed, and we will accept or send them an email for further communication if we're not meeting those space and distancing numbers with our hosting meetings and events on campus. I'm going to jump into intramurals and club sports, but this really goes to a lot of our campus activity board, our CAB program, our student activities. We started probably back in June that moving around our schedule to adhere to events that we could create more social distancing, more safety with those. So with the intramural schedule, we adjusted that to only include minimal sport activities. We do have a lot of events, especially in the fall, that would fall in intramurals. That would be more individual events, and we did that over the summer to adhere to that distancing process. We will have our intramural supervisors, club sports, which we have 3 of them on campus, will be responsible for cleaning equipment before and after use by a group, and that is just best guidance from the CDC, so they'll be responsible for that. And we'll take attendance at all activities and practices that we have, not only from student activities, but club sports as well. And that goes back into, if we do have a positive case, the more that we can know students and what they were involved in, and depending where that positive case is, the better that we can work with Southeast Nebraska to reach out to contacts and follow up with them. For athletics, just some points to provide a safe experience for our student athletes. We're implementing the following. So athletes will be screened with temperature and questionnaire upon arrival. That will include upon arrival testing as well. I didn't get that change in there, but testing as well. Athletes will be screened daily using the Presage app. That is an app that we'll have for all campus students and faculty and staff if they'd like to be a part of that as well. That kind of monitors with COVID and gives them good follow-up if they are being symptomatic and how we work with them. Athletes will be tested for COVID-19 before their first competition. Social distancing will be conducted whenever possible. I know the coaches and the assistant coaches have been working on that. Even as some athletes have come back and worked in the weight room right now, that is a very important measure that as we get going here, that social distancing is part of that, what we can do, the best that we can do for the student athletes as we get going here. And then additional disinfection of athletic facilities will be conducted. So locker rooms, certain athletic spaces, venues to watch games. So that's all using CDC and making sure we disinfect those athletic facilities using that CDC guidelines. And then most of your students will be coming, will probably be living on campus. So as students return to campus, our August 10th date is for student athletes coming back. We do also have some students involved in Summer Bridge that will be back at that time. August 13th will be all new first-year students. And then August 16th will be returning students on that Sunday. And so the college is asking all residential students to pre-screen themselves before coming back to campus. And so what I mentioned earlier about that phone call that we're making, that's part of it as well. I know we have information out that we sent out and on our website, but we felt we wanted to make that personal approach to students. So those are the phone calls that we're making this week. The college will screen and test students before they move into their hall. Additionally, Residence Life has added the following protocols to ensure both safety and the opportunity for students to engage while they're in the halls. A couple of those are all students moving in the halls. We have designated times for move-in to support good flow and lesser numbers on floors during the move-in process. So when we looked at this summer, one of the things we wanted to be able to control was numbers. And so as your student is living in the halls and they've gotten information from Residence Life about assigned move-in times for their day, and that's a big part of that. The cleaning of bathroom and high traffic areas in the halls will occur multiple times during the day, kind of what I mentioned earlier with the cleaning plan. So bathrooms, high traffic areas in the residence halls, that will be something that facilities has a plan for with multiple times a day in the residence halls. Our Residence Life programming will have both in person, and then we'll use technology as well. In-person program will occur with social distancing and face covering guidelines. We want to encourage as much of engaging atmosphere as we can. And there may be opportunities too from not only Residence Life, but from our activity end, where we can get a lot of good buy-in with some virtual activities that we do as well with many numbers. So we're going to do that kind of as a two-pronged approach in Residence Life for this fall semester. One thing that's on here that I want to mention, and we're going to talk to students as they come back, as of right now, we will not have a guest policy in residence hall rooms. And I think one thing to look at what the CDC guidance kind of offers on that, they look at a residence hall like a home or a hotel room where if I'm in there, I'm not wearing face coverings, but you know, the rooms can be small as we have people come in. I don't know if we can, I think it's better for us to go with no guest policy in the residence halls to start off with, because then I think we can monitor it a little bit better. And this policy we'll review it periodically. So probably after that first month, we'll look at where we're at. I know we want to create that engaging environment, but we also want to be safe with things. So I think that's something that we're going to look at, but I think that's going to be a big policy as students come back. And it's really to promote, you know, the safety, I think, early on. And then the college, we've left open spaces in Oak Hill, our apartments behind the football field, and to Matthews Hall over at the complex to accommodate any residential student who may need to isolate due to COVID-19. And if we do have a positive case, one of the things is right now we have 24, we may have a few more, 24, 25 rooms that have their own bathroom, kitchen. So if we have a student with a positive test that needs to self-isolate, we can work with them on campus, and that plan would include communication from the academic end, delivery of classes, communication from the Residence Life end, from meals and getting them their meals. We may see a lot of students that if they do have a positive test, they may ask to go home, and that is absolutely fine. We'll just communicate through them just normal way we do if we had a student isolating on campus. And then the last part, the testing, monitoring, screening. As students return to campus, we've been communicating with the students about them screening as they arrive, self-screening, things that they can do before they arrive. For athletics and the student movement, all students will be screened with questions and temperature checks and tests as well. If a student is symptomatic or exposed to COVID-19, the college will ask that they self-quarantine and take a point of care rapid test through Auburn Family Health. Auburn Family Health is our health center provider. It's located about 10 or 12 minutes from here. And they can provide a test if a student thinks they're symptomatic. They can provide a test without the student leaving their car, called that rapid test, and they can have results back in about 15 or 20 minutes. So if we have someone that is self-quarantining, we do have that available to us, which I think that test, there's only 2 in the state of Nebraska, and one of them being with Auburn Family Health will be something that we will work with students on to be able to support them with that test. If the college has a positive COVID-19 test, the student will either isolate at home or on campus with rooms set aside, like I mentioned, with Oak Hills and Matthews. All students will engage in a screening app that we'll use daily with questions and temperature checks. So as students arrive, temperature checks as part of this app will be important. So we'll have thermometers for the students, and then for those first year students and all students, really, we'll start in as they arrive, and then during welcome week, helping them with that, not only the app, but how we do that with the temperature checks. And then any symptomatic student will be referred for follow-up or self-quarantine, or the availability of that point of care test through Auburn Family Health. And we've been reaching out to students, all students, with notifying them about expectations through email. We haven't put a lot on my PSC, but that goes into the personal calls that we're making this week for students to follow up with them. And we really encourage, because things can change or a policy may change from day to day, that your student is checking their Peru.edu email a couple times a day, just to make sure they're staying on top of things with any changes that may be going on here. And then the last part I left in there, because I get a lot of questions on this, so I use right from the CDC, kind of what is that student recovery plan if we do have a positive test. And so if a student has symptoms and test positive for COVID-19, they must self-isolate until fully recovered. And per the CDC guidelines, if that individual has COVID-19, recovery status is assigned when the individual remains fever-free without the use of fever reducers for 24 hours. Their symptoms have improved, and it has been 10 days since their symptoms had first appeared. We'd also really encourage, at that point, if we can, a follow-up with maybe that student's health provider, or we'd work with them as well. A student who tests positive but does not have symptoms can be cleared to return 10 days after the test, as long as they do not develop any symptoms. If they develop symptoms, then we go back through the recovery plan for an individual with symptoms. And then if we have any student that may be quarantining with us, both on and off campus or isolation, college staff will remain in contact with that student throughout their time to communicate not only delivery of classes, but support for them as well and next steps. Additionally, if you go to our website, peru.edu, right on that front page, you'll see that information and guidance related to COVID-19. If you get a chance, click on that. We have information that we've sent out to the campus and students. I believe our start notes are on there as well if you want to look through them. We have a section for frequently asked questions, and then information from the Nebraska Department of Health and CDC. And after today, if you have any questions, my email's up there. Feel free to reach out to me at mthielen@peru.edu.
Hello. If you got any questions on here?
And it doesn't look like, and that was Adam, our director of Residence Life. It doesn't look like we have any questions yet, but we can hang on for a couple minutes. One last thing I'd like to mention to all of you, all of our orientation sessions are on. If you want to view those, if you missed some and want to go back, we've had orientation sessions on our Welcome Week program. We've had orientation sessions on Residence Life. You can go, if you go to peru.edu/orientation, you can view all those orientation sessions if you'd like to take a look at them. Looks like we have a question. How many first year students are there? And is that question moving into the halls or overall? Adam, if it's the halls, you have that updated list, don't you? I'll jump into the next question as we look at that. Are you discouraging travel during this first term? I think as you go into plan, and I'm going to jump into that, there is a process that we have in place. I think for any travel out of state, that for students outside of the athletic end, I think we're going to review that. But any student groups or organizations will have a process where they have to go through that department, vice president or dean get approval for that for travel in the state for academic groups or activities. So we'll have a process in place for that. I wouldn't say we're discouraging it, but we will have a process in place.
Matt, we'll have about 150 students moving in on the freshman move-in date, August 13th. And I think overall new freshmen were between 200 and 250. I'm not sure what the exact number is.
Okay, thanks Adam for that first question. There's a question on here, will parents and student spectators be allowed to come to football, volleyball games? Yes, and we were just in a meeting and our athletic trainer, Brent, our head athletic trainer, is part of our start group. So yeah, we will have spectators. Now we, through the guidance that's out there, we have a certain percentage that, depending if it's outdoors or indoors, but spectators are welcome both at our basketball, volleyball, and football games. There may be some guidance as you come in for that game that will be either sent to you or that you'll see as you enter the venue, but yes, we will have that. Normal travel to home and back is okay. Yes, we know this. Students will be going home. I think one of the things that we've been communicating to students is as we go home to be aware of your environment and surroundings. So, you know, if we had a trip planned and we went home for the weekend and we were headed to Denver, which at one point Denver, Colorado was kind of a hot spot for a while, I think communication is going to be important. So if a student is you know, going back home nearby, we want to encourage that, but we also want them to be really aware of their surroundings. So if they feel like, hey, I was in a venue, we went out of state and here's where we went and there were some issues with COVID, that we just have good communication, I think, with those students. But yes, for student travel back and home, that is something that we expect. But I think the guidance that we're under, and as we work with students, we'll have good communication with them to make sure if there's any issues with that travel, that we can do that very quickly and then also very efficiently. And as we're waiting for any other questions to come in, I'll just mention this again. Please go to our website, I think, as parents. I think, you know, I mentioned what's kind of covered. It's right there on the front section of our webpage if you go to peru.edu. The other important part is with your students, make sure they're checking. So as they register, they got their peru.edu email. Make sure they're not only checking that for this, but there may be some other changes that come up with some other things outside of what we're talking about. So I encourage when, you know, sometime early in the morning, sometime at night, just get in that habit if you can talk to your student about checking their peru.edu email. Yes, there's a question, will there be any carts available to help move in items this Monday, Adam? Do you want to jump in a little bit more in detail what that move-in looks like?
What was the question, if there was carts?
Will there be any carts available to help move items this Monday?
We don't have carts because, like you'd see to other schools, mainly because there's no, in Dalzell and Morgan especially, they're off on the top of hills, so carts don't work. A dolly might work, but we ask people to bring those from home. But like, you know, you'd see like big canvas carts or things like that at other schools, but we don't have those here just because we don't really have the terrain for them.
And we've given, so with our assigned move-in times, we've given an hour. I know we've also asked to kind of create those lower numbers that we have just 2 coming from home to help with the move. So we're very understandable that it's going to look a little bit different than most years. And so, you know, Adam and his staff will be there to be able to communicate and support. But also, you know, as we go through this with the move-in process, we have put some restrictions on numbers and things like that. We've really encouraged, I think early on as you move in, what the Res Life communication has been is pack light. I know that's easier said than done. But, you know, I think early on, especially that move in, if we can pack a little bit lighter, that may behoove us a little bit more because we're only, we have limited numbers that we're saying can come with that student to help support the move. And lastly, before we get off here, I'll just, if you can, and I'll I'll go back up to that up here. If you think of some questions tonight, tomorrow, maybe over the weekend, some of you may be moving in on the 10th, some the 13th, please reach out to me. You can see that right below my email, mthielen@peru.edu. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. So sometimes those questions when we're in a virtual orientation may come to us a day or so later, but feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. So I don't see any other questions. So I want to, first of all, thank you for being part of this. Remember, you can send me an email and I can follow up if those questions do come to you. I'd be more than happy to answer them, but I'd like to thank you first for your time, and we look forward to seeing your students here shortly. Thanks.